All wings report in.
HouseDog, standing by.
MotherGoose, standing by.
Lowtech Tuck, standing by.
Lock S foils in attack position. Animal Squadron ready for battle.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Animal Squadron podcast. I am your host, HouseDog, and with me, as always, my best friend in the whole entire universe, the guy I love the most. He's always here for every show. I almost said MotherGoose, but it's not. It's Lowtech Tuck.
What up, everybody? Also, I have been called before the Chewie to his Han as well.
Well, I mean, timeline-wise, canon-wise, you are the Chewie to my Han, originally.
Yeah. And also, I mean, if certain people, like let's say our fans, were willing to call me our hairiest host, I would be willing to accept that mantle as well.
See, that's a step too far, Tuck.
Oh, that's
It's a step too far.
Am I getting demoted
It's a step
again?
too far. It's a step too far, my friend. Elijah is the hairiest host.
He is. I stepped too far. I will have to give myself 7 lashes for making such a statement.
You really should.
Yep. I think I'm going to start right after the show ends.
Well, it's just me and you this week. Elijah's dead. He's gone.
He is. Forever in our hearts, though.
I don't know about that far, but
He is currently in my heart because we talked about him.
that's better.
Yeah.
No, Elijah is on vacation. Very, very well deserved. Very well needed.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, he has to keep track of us, too, so, you know.
I don't think we're that hard to keep track of. I mean, we're pretty good, I guess. No, we're terrible. I mean, good luck to Elijah editing this episode. Whenever you and I get on the podcast together and Elijah isn't here, we just do kind of whatever we want.
We go to Dreamland pretty often. We just talk.
We do.
We just hang out.
And I golfed today. So, you know, if you're on the golf course, you're cracking some brewskis.
Happens to the best of us.
You know, and what can I say? I played 9 holes of golf. My body hurts. I'm old. And, you know, you have to have some liquid Advil whenever you're out there.
Liquid Advil. That's pretty funny. I've never heard that before, actually. I like it.
But in the name of Elijah being gone, I guess we'll stick to the topic of this week, which is the Acolyte episode 3.
Acolyte episode 3. Do you know what it's called?
Justice? Destiny.
Destiny. That was tip of my tongue. I was thinking about it the whole time. Yep.
It was right there. Tuck, what did you think of Destiny?
You know, I actually appreciated Destiny as a look into what's been hinted at for a lot of the show so far. Like, we actually got to see what happened on Bryndock, thank you. 16 years ago. And with all the Jedi and why, like, what is May's motive? We got to explore that. And also what happened to separate the twins. Why did Osha think that May was dead for 16 years? I mean, I think we just got a lot of good answers to a lot of questions, and I also think that it went pretty well. I mean, I don't think that I could have written it any better. I mean, as far as what happened, I think it's going to make sense with the overall story. So, yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I actually really did.
So, I enjoy flashback episodes, but I don't like where the episode is completely flashback. I want to go back and forth to current day in past. I don't like episodes where they're completely flashbacks. I think they're a waste of time. And Elijah, get the R2D2 button sound ready. But May.
Why is that?
Dude. No.
What
do you mean, why is that?
I'm asking you.
You watched the episode.
I know. I'm asking you to expound on it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not arguing with you. Yeah.
We'll get into it as we go through the episode. But again, Elijah, R2D2 button. wreck May.
Yeah, I mean, she is a little
completely.
turd. She is a little turd.
Dude,
Yeah.
how are you like 8 years old and you're just a bitch? Like, are you kidding me? Like, whenever we get to that, you know what scene I'm talking about.
I know of several. Yeah, I mean, oh, you mean at the end, like toward the end?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean that was really not cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Not cool.
Yep. But on that note, we open, and it's the serene world of Brindog, 16 years earlier.
Ooh.
What's going on Brindog, Mac? What's it looking like?
Children are in a forest. May is torturing a butterfly-like creature.
That's exactly what's happening. And it's kind of disturbing. This has been Tucker with NPR.
But this episode is interesting because it kind of flip-flops. Like, sometimes you think Osha's evil, and sometimes you think May is evil.
Yeah, well, and I know the actors are sisters, but like especially, and like they tried, I think, to separate them a little bit with how their outfits are. But for me, like they look, I mean, and I know they're supposed to because they're twins, but they look too similar, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I had trouble following who was who for a second.
So I had the same problem of understanding who is who, but the twins, they do look a little bit different.
They do, because the actresses are sisters. I mean, I do get that part, but it's just like when things.
And just to clarify, the young Osha and May are different young child actors.
Yes, but those young child actors
they're
are
twins.
Biological sisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think Elijah said in the last episode they are twins. The young May and Osha are twins.
Oh, I thought they were just sisters. I didn't realize.
Maybe
that.
they are. I don't know. Ed or Elijah, come in behind us and correct us.
Help!
Hello, everyone. It's MotherGoose, the hairiest host. First, Tucker, how dare you try and take that from me? But yes, young May and Osha are played by Lauren and Leia Bradley. They are fraternal twins.
That's, you know what? He's on vacation, so he can do that small thing for us.
That's right. Because we never ask him for anything.
Never.
We're just super great people to work with.
You are super great people to work with, and I value both of you.
But yeah, I mean, you can.
Maybe.
I think you can start to tell for sure that May's got some psychological issues for sure in this scene.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's long been taught anyway that like, people who have psychopathic tendencies usually some of the first places they start is by torturing animals. So.
Yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Pretty much any famous serial killer, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. When did we turn into a true crime podcast?
I don't know. And also earlier I was doing an NPR thing. I don't know where we're at, dude. I'm feeling kind of scared and lost.
I don't know. Good luck, Elijah. You left me and Tucker alone. This is only your fault.
Oh, but then after this scene, we are introduced to one of their mothers, which starts to paint this picture of where the girls live at this point in time, and they live in a witch coven that I forgot to look them up, but I'm going to call them the Children of the Thread. That's what I'm going to call them for now. And I thought it was really interesting that we get more Night Sister-esque, like a witch coven, and also like a dark side Force user witch coven, which I just thought was really interesting. And also, too, Brindog, to me, doesn't look like a Sith planet. Because usually Sith planets are, real jacked up in one way or another. Like, think Dathomir, and that's kind of your average dark side planet. Whereas Brindog is teeming with life and beautiful, and all the other people living there aside from the witch coven appear to just be normal people just doing their jobs and going back home. A lot of farming, just things that kind of seem a lot more light side to me. And so it was just kind of an interesting dynamic, I thought.
The thing that gets me is I remember specifically whenever this episode came out, the like great debate. Do you remember the huge uproar that this episode caused?
Oh, with the twins specifically? Or do you mean the mothers and how that had some LGBTQ stuff that people just really ran away with?
Yeah, I didn't get. I mean,
Yeah, well, because like one of the
there
mothers
was
like
like a
strokes
huge
the other one's
lesbian vibe.
right. Yeah, because like one of the mothers strokes the other mother's face, but I wouldn't necessarily say that was like sexual in nature or anything. Like, and I mean to be honest, like I wouldn't really care that much if they were lesbians or anything. My argument would be just, you know, make it a good story. Don't just have stuff for the sake of having stuff. But regardless,
No, I'm there with you.
like yeah, I mean like the lesbian thing's not the thing that I think is stupid that people were. Well, no, that's exactly what I think is the stupid thing of why people were freaking out, because it's like I didn't really get any over sexualization at all.
No, I didn't get like super heavy lesbian vibes from this.
Yeah, and also I definitely don't think that it was to push any sort of agenda or anything. Like it just seemed like they're a witch coven. And like, and
Yes.
obviously and they call each other sister, and the girls call them mothers. And I just think that that's just what makes sense. I mean, because like, what are you gonna, like, obviously those children need to have some sort of authority, but
I
it
mean,
turns
they're
out that it's
definitely
all of
kinda-
them.
There was that vibe between Osha and May's mother, who's like the leader of the village, and that female Zabrak that finds them in the woods.
And
There
that's-
definitely was that like
Yeah.
relationship vibe.
Well, yeah, she brushes her face, but also it's, I mean, it could be sisterly too. I mean, I don't know about like that they're just definitely like all the witches in this coven are all, you know, in one giant relationship. Like that seems like
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
that seems like kind of a crazy thing to draw. Like it just seems a little nuts. that's what happened, and that's why there was all this uproar. It seems unreasonable, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't read it as this is a lesbian witch coven where like only children come from the force. Like
No, because also too, they even say it later in the episode. Like this was a miracle to them. Like it's not.
yeah,
It's not like they do this
common.
all the time. I mean, like if I had to guess, I would imagine that actually they're probably more so like the Jedi, where they adopt
Yes.
people in. Like you're not born a child of the thread or whatever they're actually called. They take you in.
Bing, editor Elijah here. I do think the main witch and the Zabrak did have a romantic relationship, but I do completely agree with the boys here. It's so frustrating to see these bigoted Star Wars fans literally lose their minds over something as simple as like a face touch. I've said this before and I will say it again. Diversity makes stories better, and everybody deserves to see themselves on the big screen, especially Star Wars. Star Wars means so much to so many people. It is a series for everyone.
Well, I think that's to more explain the like, and I mention it later in my notes that like twins are a big deal. Obviously, it's a callback to Luke and Leia,
Yeah, definitely.
but I think it also expands upon that thought of the dyad in the Force between Rey and Ben.
Yeah, and then also I think too they're a symbol for the light and dark sides of the Force too.
Well, yeah, and that brings up, and sorry, Elijah, we're gonna go into the EU again, but those two twin boys from, is it KOTOR?
Oh, you're talking about it's Darth Vitiate and I forget his kid's name. And it's the Sith Eternal Empire.
They're the
it's
twin
the Eternal.
brothers.
Well, yeah, but it's the Eternal Empire, and their dad is Darth Vitiate.
What'd you call me?
Yeah, because one of one of them's a Jedi and one of them's a Sith, and then I think the Jedi brother turns evil, and it's a whole story in and of itself. But it's kind of I get what you're saying, that it's kind of the same deal where they're twin brothers that kind of have a similar storyline to May and Osha, right?
Yeah, it's the whole yin and yang thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's but if you're looking it up, it's called the Eternal Empire, is where that story takes place.
Yeah.
The Sith Eternal Empire.
That's kind of how I read Osha and May.
Mm-hmm.
Is it you see this darkness in one, but really it's the other one?
Yeah, right. Right. But also that's where I think that as far as this story, I really think it's getting really good, because as far as being as advertised as a Star Wars whodunit, I think they're really starting to do a really good job.
Definitely not bad.
As far as creating situations where there's irony and there's, this is a type of irony, but where we know stuff that the characters don't.
Right.
And, trying to figure out, watching them try to figure out, what, we know why, that May is killing these people, but why is she doing it? And also, who is she serving? Which I think is, that's kind of, I guess, where it moves away from a classic whodunit, because obviously we know who pulled the trigger, so to speak, but we don't know why they did, which is kind of interesting.
It's kind of like that episode of Visions, the Irish or Scottish episode.
What, the Wraith?
Remember? Yes.
Yeah.
Where we think this chick is, a daughter of a Jedi that got cast out or left the order, but really she's been talking to a Sith the entire time.
Right. Yeah. No, and I'm kind of curious, where this goes. I actually, and for that reason though, that's why I kind of like this episode. I think it, brings a lot of that stuff to light, and really I think makes the show more enjoyable as a whole. I'd say that this episode enhances the show, not drags it down overall.
I think it brings up a lot of questions.
Yeah, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, good.
It kind of sorry, but we've always had the Witches of Dathomir,
mm-hmm.
and now we've got this other coven on Brendok,
mm-hmm.
which it kind of makes it difficult story-wise within Star Wars to follow all of these pathways that they're building.
Oh, as far as force pathways, for lack of a better term? You got light side, dark side, you got witches, and it seems kind of complicated. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But maybe it all stems from Dathomir, and maybe that's what we get back to eventually.
Yeah, but also, too, this is one thing that recently Star Wars has been doing a lot, because not only do we have this new witch coven, and then the Night Sisters, and then you also have from Tales of the Empire, you have the good witches. I forget what they're called. The light side ones. Remember us talking about them? The Morgan episodes?
Oh, yes. That are also on Dathomir, but they're the more into the earth and
yeah. Well, that's why I'm calling
grounding yourself.
Yeah, I'm calling them light side because they seem Jedi adjacent, for lack of a better term.
No, I think that's a good analogy.
And then also we have recently too some of the ancient cultures, like the Zepho. They were light side force users, but they weren't Jedi necessarily. I think there were Zepho Jedi, but anyways, you've got them. You've got we talk about this in the Plo Koon episode, or Elijah and I did. You have the Baran Do sages, which it's a race of Keldor where they're essentially light side wizards and witches. There's, male and female barring dosages. So I think there are a lot of background Force users that aren't light and dark side, but at the same time, the reason that I don't find this all that lore breaking and the reason that I'm not upset with it is because I think both of them either fit into the light side bucket or the dark side bucket. And I think that that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is Disney's way of trying to dig out of the hole that the sequels created.
Oh, well, I mean, in that case, that's literally been every Star Wars show that they've done has been trying to repair that.
I think that's where we're headed as a community.
Yeah, I do too, but Acolyte in general, I think they are a little bit, but at the same time, I mean, I think this has to do more so with trying to make the whole story cohesive rather than being more about the sequels because it takes place so much earlier.
Yeah, but I think we're also like trying to expound on the Force in a lot of ways.
Yeah, which I think is a good thing.
Definitely not a bad thing. Because I mean, the Force is still like heavily shrouded in mystery. Even with like, I think in my opinion, the first show to really explore that avenue was Rebels.
Yeah.
Even though it was another cartoon. But
yeah.
I think it started there.
Mm-hmm. I think it probably did too, especially with like, learning about like the world between worlds and, some stuff like that we just wasn't anywhere. Completely new. And it expounded on the Force. But I like that because I think that the more information we learn about the Force and all that, it actually makes the original 6 movies more meaningful to me. Like, I don't see it as a detraction. I see it as an addition for the most part. Obviously, I said the original 6 movies, and I'll say it again. The last 3, 7, 8, and 9, I think they did more damage to the story as a whole than good, but I don't see current Star Wars and the current shows and stuff that are coming out as that level of doing damage. I think actually they're enhancing and making the whole experience more enjoyable in general. And that includes, I really think, ever since Disney bought it. I mean, I think for the most part, yes, those movies they came out with, that was not a home run. But I think they've really been, coming back pretty strong as far as like trying to fix stuff, but then also enhance the story as a whole and make it all make sense.
For sure.
Which I think that's kind of all you can do in the situation that they've put themselves in. I mean, like, what else do they do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to try to get us back on track here? Because I have no idea where we are in the episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't really have to walk through that episode step by step. There was one more question that I think will get us progressing pretty far through the episode here. But that is, what do you think about the concept of the twins and how they have no father and how they just exist and that they're children of the Force? What do you think about that?
I'm not upset about it. I mean, I think initially I was whenever I was seeing reviews and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like everybody else. Like, they're breaking canon. They're
only Anakin
destroying,
can be.
Yeah, a child of the Force. But I'm not really mad about it because I think we're seeing more of how the Force can be all throughout the galaxy. And it doesn't matter where. Which is what Star Wars is about.
Yeah, and it's a universal godlike thing.
Well, not just that, but like a hero can be from anywhere, which is what George did in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I mean, you take Luke from a backwater planet such as Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it on the show before. A hero can be from anywhere.
Yeah.
Which is what Luke's whole story was about, and I'm repeating myself, but
yeah. And Anakin too. I mean, he's literally was born into slavery.
I mean, Anakin's story is obviously, since Luke came before, it's poetry. You know, it rhymes. We say that all the time on the show.
Yeah, and they did that on purpose, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where the story had to go. But I mean, we're seeing it here too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm not gonna be a defender of this show because we haven't watched all of it, but I just, for me at this point personally, I don't understand the huge uproar that this show caused. Maybe it comes later, but I'm just like, why is it such a big deal that Osha and May are quote unquote of the thread, which is what these witches, this coven, calls the Force?
Right. Yeah. And also, like, I don't see why that's a big deal either. And to be honest, what I really think about this show is I really think that there was some stuff going on outside of the show, like as far as like interviews and current political climate and that kind of stuff, that really, really ticked people off. But I think a lot of the complaints that people had so far, I mean, we're only 3 episodes in, so I can't speak to the whole show either, but I think largely people were just mad about other stuff, and then they were just looking for things in this show to piss them off.
Yeah.
And they found little things like that. It's like, you know what? Yeah, let's just tear apart that there's Force children. Whereas, like, I don't really see how that matters. And also, like, as far as Star Wars goes, if the Force is the end-all be-all and is all-powerful, like, who's to say that there isn't miracles like this from time to time? Like, for instance, we still don't know where Yoda's species come from. Are they all children of the Force? You tell me. We don't know. I mean, it's like, does the Force just create beings from time to time? Anakin included, and also May, Osha, and whoever included?
I think it does.
I think so too.
The Force creates what we would perceive as events.
Yeah, and I also think too that the Force is constantly trying to balance itself, because beings aren't perfect, so it's just trying to play this balancing game. And so, like, beings do evil stuff, and like, let's say that the dark side's currently overcoming the light side, well, then I think the Force tries to reset to both sides, including light and dark, whatever.
It takes us back to that age-old question. We, as humans, cannot understand what a higher being would consider balance, which is what you guys talked about in one of the episodes whenever I was gone. Like, what does balance mean in the Force? Because we can't comprehend that.
That was when we had Seth on,
Yeah, we can't comprehend that.
Mm-hmm.
Is what does balance mean to a being or to an entity that is higher than us?
Right, and also is eternal, like has been and always will be. So, like,
we can't comprehend. And it's insane to me that a living, breathing person on planet Earth could come up with all of this. It's like whenever you watch Lord of the Rings and you're like, how did Tolkien sit here and make all of this out of his own brain?
But that's one thing that I think is really cool is, you quote George Lucas by saying it's like poetry, it rhymes. I think that's how they do it, is because they there's these themes that resonate with them, and they create these stories with the themes that they really care about. Like, for instance, like Lord of the Rings. I mean, a lot of that was based in the fact that there really wasn't like a English mythology, for instance.
Yeah.
And like Tolkien wanted to create one. And then also
Yeah,
like, you know,
it got wiped out.
yeah, and then also like George Lucas, like, you know, he had some life events and, you know, political opinions and things that he saw in the world that were messed up, and this was what he was trying to do to fix it. I mean, he created this fictional world and created these themes and like was telling these stories to help people think about real problems.
Exactly.
And I just think that
in a way that's not threatening.
Yeah, but that's why I think, like, you know, as far as what we're talking about, like, I think that really for any story, it is like poetry and it does rhyme. Because I think, like, human beings, like, that there's certain themes that really resonate with us. And they're just occasionally, once in a generation, comes someone who just really hits a home run on storytelling. They do something like this that just resonates with everyone.
Yeah, I think to get us back to the episode, because who knows what we've been talking about for the past 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to me that May is the one pushing Osha the entire episode.
Yeah, but also I like that for her character. Because in order for her to... I mean, and we'll talk about this whenever we see the end of the episode, but in short, for May to feel this vengeance and like feel that the Jedi took Osha, which is a part of her, or, you know, anything like that, I think that she kind of has to be this pushy.
Yeah, well, the show has to end like one of three ways. Mm-hmm. One, Osha goes over to the Acolyte side. 2, May comes over to the light side. Or 3, Osha or May dies.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, like you said, one of those three kind of has to happen. But
yeah, I mean, what scene are you ready for next, buddy? Because I don't know, we talked about everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, we don't necessarily have to go track for track. I mean, because this is a review, so like we don't have to necessarily stick scene by scene. But
should we just go to like the Ascension night?
Yeah, I'd say that's kind of where things start cooking. Yeah, I liked this ceremony. I mean, it seemed very, very witchy and very Force Acolyte-esque. Like, just that, the way that everyone was, like, you know, all robed up in, like, a culty kind of way, and it was kind of spooky, and, like, I also thought it was interesting how it like, May clearly was very into it, but it scares Osha.
Well, not only that, but, like, Osha wants to be independent of May.
Yes, she does, and she reveals that later in the episode. Or maybe it is before this. I think it's actually a little both.
It's leading up to the event.
Yeah.
She's like drawing in her notebook, and May's like, "Why are you drawing in your notebook?" And she's like, "It's private. It's for me. I don't want to do everything with you." And May is like, "Why? We're sisters. We're supposed to do everything together." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Do you ever have dreams of not being on Brendok, like exploring the galaxy and stuff?" And May's like, "No. We're supposed to do everything together."
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. But I also think too, that's a real thing. I mean, I think they just, like May, for instance, I think is just really dependent on Osha in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like she's very dependent. And when Osha starts to not be May's obedient little sister anymore and starts to ask questions and think differently, then May hates that.
Yeah, it definitely hurts her feelings.
Yeah, I think so too. And I guess that's what I was saying earlier, is like I like that this is the direction that they go, because I think in order for May to feel the way she does, and seek vengeance this hard, there's got to be something that hurts. There's got to be something that hurts her so bad that she wants to kill.
Yeah, there's got to be a great pain.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is exactly it. Because in her view, you know, May didn't leave, the Jedi took her. And the fire and the explosions is not what killed her family. The Jedi did. And the Jedi are evil. And the Jedi did all that, you know, and so I think that's more so I think what's driving May, and that's why I think this episode's so interesting.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
It's like poetry, it rhymes. There we go. Oh, so the Jedi actually step in and try to stop the ritual after May has been touched by the Force and received her tattoo, which I thought that was kind of an interesting way to do that. The Force actually puts an imprint on them. And that's like what their tattoos are, which I thought that was cool. But so the Jedi step in, it's not Sindara. What's her name? The first lady that dies. The Jedi. Indara, that's right. She says, like, that we know you're training children here, which I thought that was kind of interesting the way that she says it, because it's almost like that's illegal.
Right, like the Jedi have some, I don't know.
Yeah, they have like a patent on training children. Like, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. But on the other hand, I think they probably do. I mean, I think honestly the Jedi definitely push back on any sort of Force users being trained outside of the Jedi Order.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. What are the Jedi doing? You and I could talk about Jedi for hours.
We could, but that's why I also like where this show is going, because I think it paints the problems with the Jedi. Like,
oh yeah.
You know, and I think this is perfect. And also, I love, you know, like we called him last episode, Papa Soul. He's the man, dude. I just like him a lot.
Yeah. I like seeing a young soul.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, I think because Osha doesn't have a scar, does she? Well, not a scar, but like a marking.
Yeah, because she never finishes the ritual. It gets interrupted before she actually finishes the ritual.
Which is why May is like more powerful or whatever.
Yeah, and then also too, you see it earlier where I think May as well may have been born more powerful or more willing, like doesn't hold back as much, because whenever the mother in the like speech before the ascension ceremony like pushes them and says like fight back, May's the only one who fights back.
Yeah, everything depends upon May.
Yeah, but also I think that's how May sees the world, and that's how May wants it.
Yeah. It also like further empowers that dyad type of like ideal.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting they lied about having the children, but we've kind of already talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I think honestly they were probably just trying to protect the children from the Jedi who are clearly trying to take them in their mind. You know, I think I'd lie too if I was in that scenario.
It's definitely like shown that way.
Like, I don't think that the thread, like the children of the thread or whatever we're going to call them, like, I don't think they're doing anything wrong by lying to the Jedi about the children. I think they're just trying to protect them the best they know how.
Well, no, and the mother points it out. She's like, Brendok isn't a part of the Republic, so why are you concerned about us training children? Which really also, like, why are the Jedi so concerned about all these other planets?
But isn't that such a Jedi thing, though? To, like, have that be what's wrong? Is there, like, something that's minorly threatening?
Right. For there to be someone else, quote-unquote, training children, which I think is interesting about the Sith and the Jedi is that the Sith see the Force as something to be harnessed, and the Jedi see it as something that's like flowing like a river.
Yeah. But that's also too, like in the EU, that's how the Sith are created. Is they're Jedi that start practicing arts that the Jedi don't like, and so the Jedi kick them out.
Yeah, right. I don't
You know
know
what I mean?
I don't want to hate the Jedi, but the more we get about the Jedi, like canon wise, and even not canon wise, even back in the old EU, you're like, why did the Jedi think this way?
Yeah, but I think that's just how they are. They're just really arrogant. But on the other hand, I like that for the story. And then also too, I am still unapologetically a Jedi fan. Like, I will die on that hill that they're my favorite faction in all of Star Wars.
Well, I think that we have Jedi that understand the Force. Like, now we have Soul. It used to be Qui-Gon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say like Jedi that actually understand. You've got like, it's a pretty short list. It's like, I would say you got Soul, Qui-Gon, Plo Koon. You could count Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of as far as off the top of my head. I mean, Ahsoka does later, but that's also after she left the Jedi Order. Is when she starts to really understand, I feel like. So, I mean, I guess you can't really count her as far as this Jedi that understands the Force thing, because she's technically not. But
I mean, is she though? Because I mean,
well, yeah, no, she is. I'm not trying to start an argument as far as if she is or not. I'm just saying that.
No. I know what you're saying. I know what you're
saying,
and I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I would say Ahsoka asterisk. Also, too, I feel like it's gonna bug Elijah, so I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, we've got to make sure that we put in Ahsoka in there because Elijah will have an uproar if we don't.
Yeah, but I did put an asterisk in there just because I think it'll bother him just a little.
Yeah, I like that Soul presents his lightsaber to Osha.
Yeah. Like, I mean, as far as trying to be not threatening, isn't that just about the most not threatening thing you could do, is hand your weapon over?
I mean, yeah, but you're also handing a weapon to a child, which, you know, I completely enforce.
But also, too, I mean, like, we're also talking about supernatural space wizards that could stop the child from using the weapon with relative ease. Yeah.
Yeah, the relationship between Osha and May's mother and her, I guess, quote-unquote, Zabrak lover is very interesting because the mother, the leader of the village, is like, we should let them test. And oh, wow. Okay, I'm watching the episode now. Oh, so we've got more secrets here. Sorry. This must have been one of our writing things. So the Zabrak carried them.
Mm-hmm.
And the village leader created them.
That's what she says, yeah. But also, is it one of those things like we were talking about earlier where actually the Force creates them and just the mother thinks she did? Like, is it kind of a Sidious kind of thing where he thinks he did, but like he
That's
didn't?
where I was going to.
Yeah.
It was like, this kind of helps build Sidious and Plagueis' idea of controlling the Force.
Yeah. Right, because I think
at least
like
being able to influence it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just one of those things where they were probably doing some, you know, dark side magic stuff, and they happen to get this miracle, and therefore she believes that she's the one who caused it. Even though it's just a miracle. It's just something that happened in the Force. So I don't really have a huge problem with that.
Neither do I.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if she created them, I think that opens up some holes in current canon. But I guess more so too, like, what I'm choosing to believe is that she thinks she created them, but that's not necessarily what happened.
The next point I have is, why is Osha lying during her testing?
Oh, they talk about that. So actually the mother instructs them to fail.
Right.
on purpose.
And
But-
May also tells Osha to lie, but like,
Yeah. But so she's trying to be obedient, but that's where I love Soul in this episode, is he calls her out on it. Like you can tell just by watching him that he starts to see that she's lying. And he can start to sense that she actually knows the truth and she's actually powerful. And so whenever he takes her aside and he talks to her, he sort of tells her that. Like he's like, kind of, we all know you're lying. Like, come on. And that's why, like, after Soul takes her aside, she passes. Because I think even she realizes that she needs to do the right thing and tell the truth. And that's where Papa Soul's just the main man. He's him.
he's him.
Oh, and I guess we can kind of just jump toward the end, because I don't really think much else, anything crazy happens. But so we get to Osha's packing her stuff, and she has a book. Did you notice anything about the book? Like, and I'm asking because I don't know. I'm asking you because I didn't. Like, was there anything special about the book to you?
It's triangle.
Yeah. Oh, that's it? Like, you don't think it had any sort of meaning or anything?
Oh, well, I'm looking at it now. She looks like she's drawing the Jedi crest.
Oh, okay. So that could be what's significant, is because, like, I guess that symbolizes Osha's hopes and dreams.
Yeah, because Osha obviously gets accepted and May doesn't.
Right. Because I think May is successful in deceiving the Jedi.
I don't think she's successful in deceiving the Jedi. I think the Jedi saw May for what she was.
Well, yeah, I think so too. I think they're sensing that. I mean, as far as being successful, I mean, like, she's successful in the Jedi realizing that she's not worth it to them.
To them, which,
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it that way, because, again, we talk about the dogmatic point of view of the Jedi, to quote Emperor Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
To think that a person is unworthy of training or whatever, or that they might have these tendencies that you may not want, which we've talked about Rise of the Red Saber a lot.
Yeah.
You think about that character in that book and her journey. Like, if she just had somebody to hug her and tell her everything's okay, like, she wouldn't have become an Inquisitor.
Yeah, right. And there is, like, a part of, like, the Jedi, and they think they're doing a good thing. Actually, to quote Torben, we thought we were doing a good thing. But there's actually, like, unfortunately, the Jedi are pretty good at thinking they're doing the right thing and actually performing different forms of bullying. Yeah. And excluding people.
Yeah, my one thing here was May and Osha are like 8 or 9, maybe 10 at this current time. And the line that really stuck out to me was May just like coming out of nowhere while Osha's like done packing her things. She's like, I have to leave. And May's just like, you can't leave. And Osha's like, well, I have to. And she's like, nope, you're not going to leave. I'll kill you.
Right, yeah. But that's where I think she's really starting to give in to the dark side. This thing that's always tempted her. I think she's really starting to reach out into it and take hold of the abyss.
Yeah, a child saying I'll kill you is always just kind of, I don't know.
But also, too, I mean, like, as far as growing up with siblings, like, didn't we all say that to our siblings at one point? Like, I hate you, or I'll kill you, or something. And, like, and obviously, looking back as an adult, like, you didn't mean to say that. And, like, you didn't actually want to say that. You just said it because well, no, I'm sorry. Like, you said it because you wanted to, but not because you meant it.
Siblings on fire?
Well, yeah, exactly. You said it because you wanted to, not because you meant it. Now, on the other hand, though, where I think this fits in is because they're showcasing that May actually has some serious stuff wrong with her, which is, I think, too, part of why, in the Jedi's defense, that they do this, because they sense that. I think they sense that there's something deeply wrong with May.
Right.
And that, like, in order for Osha to be even remotely successful, they have to separate them. Because, like, I don't know if the Jedi necessarily wanted to separate them, and, like, necessarily didn't want to take both of them, because they're both Force-sensitive children. But I think that they were just able to, you know, like you said, they knew. They were able to figure out May for what she is, and that's that she's got something deeply wrong with her.
But if the Jedi had more time to observe Osha and May, they would see that, like, one cannot survive without the other.
Yeah. But
Together,
that's also,
they create a balance.
Yeah, but that's also, too, where I think the story's going, and that this was actually a grave mistake. Even though, again, to quote Torben, we thought we were doing a good thing.
Yeah, which, I mean, we were half right, or I was half right on the theory here. May falls to her death, and Sol saves Osha. Not by choice, but by circumstance.
Mm-hmm. But also, too, that's good on Sol. Like, he was clearly willing to save both of them, which I thought was touching, and just shows that Sol's a very good dude.
Good guy Sol.
Good guy Sol.
That's what Elijah would say.
Our main man. But yeah. No, I don't know. I don't really think there's much else in this episode that I really have notes on. I think we've really covered a lot. Unless you have something.
No. Their mom dies.
Along with all the witches, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
All the children of the thread. They're gone.
They say it in the first two episodes, you know, that Brendock, like, just completely got wiped out because of May.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad episode, but I don't know if we needed, and maybe we do, maybe we'll see it later in the series, but to take a whole 38-minute episode to explain both of these characters, I don't know if we needed 38 minutes of a flashback.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, but also we did spend an hour talking about it.
That's true.
So I'd say, and for the most part, stayed pretty well on task.
I don't know. You and I always like to take little avenues, but it's...
Yeah, but I mean, I think we talked about all the main themes of the story.
Oh, for sure.
And what's interesting. So I'd say successful.
I'm ready to get into a point of this show where we're not, I wouldn't say defend it, but, like, you know what I mean?
That we actually like it?
No, not even that far. More like where we're just watching a new Star Wars show. Like, think about, like Boba Fett or something like that, or even Mando, where we just watch the show and talk about it. Like, this feels like, so far for me, Acolyte has felt like we're having to explain things.
Yeah, and like, so I guess what you're saying, like, do you feel like this show is, I mean, even though I think we've said some good things as far as, like, you know, defending it and that it's actually a decent show and all that stuff, like, are you trying to say that you wish it wasn't so controversial? And, like,
yeah,
and, like, stood more on its own 2 feet?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you.
I wish the show could stand on its own 2 feet more than us having to talk about it.
Yeah, I get that, but also too, I mean, we're not even halfway. Are we halfway? I don't know. No, there's 8 episodes, right? Yeah, so
I can tell you. Hold on.
Maybe there's 12.
So we just did episode 3. There's 8, so we're not even halfway through.
Yeah, so I think time will tell. I think that they're, you know, the first.
I also can't see how we're going to, like, build upon Yord and everybody else in 4 episodes.
It's a good thing we got 5.
Whatever number it is.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean, but we'll see. I mean, they're 40 minutes. You know, maybe there's enough. And I mean, you know as well as I do, not every character needs full development, too.
That's true.
Especially if they're gonna die, like in a whodunit.
That's true. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to Tuck and I ramble about the Force and dyads and twins and everything but episode 3 of the Acolyte.
We covered it. I'd say we covered it.
You know, this is just what happens whenever Elijah goes on vacation. If you want Elijah back, email us at animalsquadron@gmail.com. Again, that's animalsquadron@gmail.com. Sorry, Tuck, I took your line. But I'm having to play myself and Elijah. So, yeah, no, we really appreciate you guys sticking around. We haven't said it in a while, but as a team, we really appreciate all you guys. Whether it's 5 viewers or 50 viewers, we really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. Please leave us a review wherever you're listening. We really appreciate it. There's a lot of big stuff coming without giving too much away. Please just stick around, and there's definitely going to be more. And this will be episode 94 of the Animal Squadron podcast, which means we're only 6 away from episode 100, and that's going to be a big episode for everybody. So please keep listening, and we just really appreciate you guys. And 100 is going to be great.
Yeah, and honestly too, I mean, this is a labor of love, man. If we didn't love being here and love everyone listening to it, we wouldn't be here. So, thanks again.
It's a great time.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. Well, I guess goodbye, everybody, as Elijah would say.
Adios.